Good evening, Christian Ditter. Welcome on VH Berries.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
I am extremely grateful. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm very excited to talk to you. So I'm doing great. How are you?
I am very curious about one item that is located behind you because I can see a black projector on the top of your shelf, and I need to know more about this unidentified and unregistered object.
Yeah, it's a video projector. It's a Sony projector, which I use to watch movies on because I love movies and I love watching them projected. So actually, I'm sitting in my office right now, and whenever I watch a film, I go to the movie theaters as much as I can, and if I can't, if I watch something at home, I use this projector to do that.
You are using that projector, and I assume that you established a sort of very precise protocol and organization because you actually need to take it out of the shelf and maybe put it in front of a screen or a white wall.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm looking at a screen right now. So I'm sitting at my desk, and obviously I have now the phone between us, so I can record this. But usually I'm looking at a screen, and there's a sofa in front of my desk. So if I want to watch a movie, I just get up, get on the sofa, and look at the screen and turn on the projector. So I don't have to move it, and it's a pain to move it because it's very well calibrated, and as soon as you move it, you have to do it all again.
Absolutely, Christian Ditter, moving that projector even a bit would be a nightmare to fix. And this projector is the same wild as the piece of furniture on which it is placed. It is a very risky situation.
Yes. Well, let's hope there's no earthquake. Otherwise, I need a new projector.
Absolutely. We don't want a earthquake because I can also sense that this piece of furniture is not very straight.
It's like, it's straight enough. It's straight enough. The entire, it's a very old house we live in. So the entire house is like not very straight. So, I kind of try to straighten it out now and then. Straight enough. But yeah, it's an old house. So, let's try to get through this without it falling apart.
It is an old house that is perfectly retranscripting your cinematic universe, Christian Ditter, because every wall is filled whether with this shelf or with some frames. And the Ditter's spaces cannot be blank. Your imagination neither. It always has to be full.
Yeah, I think that's how you can say it. I think so. Yeah, you're right.
And this imagination, Christian Ditter, started a long time ago because of one piece of art. A word that is made from 10 letters that are forming the word verzaubert.
Verzaubert, that's how you say it. Yes, that's true. That's true. You're very good, on your research. So actually, verzaubert, which translates to enchanted, was my very first short film at the Munich Film School. Yeah. And yeah, that's very true. Verzaubert.
Verzaubert was indeed your first short film. Thank you very much for the compliment on the pronunciation of that German word. And I would love to know more about this very specific project. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure. So when film school, first year film school, after 6 months, we had to do our very first film. And the task was you get 4 rolls of material. So that's 12 minutes of 35 millimeter film, and it needed to be black and white, and it needed to be without sound. The thought being, keep the crew small, don't have sound recorders there. And so we needed to come up with a story that, doesn't need any dialogue and is very, very short. And so I came up with this, bigger than life love story with some kind of voodoo element, and filmed that, and with all my friends and the other people studying with me, and it turned out to be a really fun film, and I'm very fond of it, and I then traveled the world with it. It played on dozens of festivals all everywhere, and so. After some point, after a year or something like that, I was like, okay, I gotta stop traveling and start making something new again. But it was a great experience.
It was a great experience, Christian Ditter. I can feel the passion when you are remembering Verso Birds. And as you just mentioned, Verso Birds is a short film that was shot in black and white, that is silent, and recorded on 4.0 rolls of Ilford black and white 45 millimeters.
Yeah, 35 millimeters, yes. And then it was edited actually on a Steenbeck table with scissors and tape, like Scotch tape. And just literally, whenever you had to take out a frame, you had to cut it out, you had to put the film back together. And then, the problem is cutting out is easy, but if you wanted to do something, make it longer again, you had to slice that missing frame in again. But if you not just took out one frame here and there, but, 50 all over the film, and then you wanted to lengthen something again, and then finding these missing frames somewhere on the floor in the drawers, it was an absolute nightmare. So it was like a game of memory, you just were crawling across the floor trying to find the frame that fits into the gap, when you wanted to make a moment longer again. So thank God for Rabbit. But it was nevertheless a great experience, because you had to think about every edit very, very carefully, because if you screwed it up, it was like, it punished you, the film punished you, and so you were thinking first and then making the edit. So yeah, but I'm thankful that these days are in the past.
In definitive, Christian Ditter, it was a game of memory, and it is also a very hard game of memory to remember. The 50 festivals in which that short film was shown and actually won prizes. It is a game of memory.
Yes, so I was very lucky, that the movie, there's obviously, there's always these things. You have to have great actors and a great crew and a great story, and then you have to have a ton of luck, and it hasn't changed since the first short film, right? And then I got very lucky with that first short film that it found an audience all over the world, and that was great. And I met a lot of great people and fellow filmmakers from everywhere, so it was a very exciting year. But you know what? A new film doesn't make itself. So at some point, you got to force yourself to stop and sit at your desk and just start working on the next thing. And also that hasn't changed until today.
Absolutely, Christian Ditter, always preparing and working on the next projects. And this is very ironic because the audience towards Verso Birds had a very long attention spans, and at the complete opposite of that, there is the short attention span of your friends back when you were making little short films that were never finished because all of your friends that were actors during the set were giving up. Can you tell us a little bit more about those very difficult early days?
I mean, it's like I have to say I was 10. This was when I made my first films. So this was long before film school, and the actors I worked with were actually my friends who were trying, to do me a favor. And when you tell somebody, hey, let's do a movie, everybody is like, yeah, let's do it. It's fun. And then after 2 hours, everybody just wants to do something else and wants to go. Nobody wants to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. But this is what's happening when you're making a movie, right? And so, it's like I started a lot of films when I was 10 and I hardly ever finished one. I think I didn't actually finish anything until I was 12 because people like literally ran out. And then, I had to ask other friends for the next film because the friends who were already there, they were like, no, this is boring. You do the same thing again and again and again. And, so it was difficult. It was difficult. And now that's easier now. That's easier now, actually.
Absolutely. Hopefully it is way easier now, Christian Ditter. And I actually relate to that concept of the hype because this and those events really show that you didn't stay for the hype or because it was something cool to do, but because you really loved it.
Yes. If I can tell you one thing, being the kid with the video camera running around at school is the least cool thing you can do. It's not like if you want to be the cool kid, don't take a video camera and run over the schoolyard with it every single day. So it wasn't like, no, it was certainly, I didn't do this to be cool. Certainly not. No, I had a real passion for film and I always wanted to do it. And it was a hobby. I never thought this is going to be my profession or something like that. It was just like, it became a profession for lack of alternatives, because when you get to like 16, 17, everybody is like, so what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, I have no idea. I just want to make another film and then I'll think about what I will do with my life, right? And so it was, I just turned my hobby into my profession. And I got very lucky that I was able to do that.
You turned this hobby into your profession, Christian Ditter, and from what I can feel, Germany is a central part of your identity because this is a place, this is the place in which you grew up and you're still going there very frequently. What is your relationship with the artistical scene in Germany?
So I'm German, obviously, and I made a lot of films. I made 7 films and TV shows in Germany before I came to Hollywood, basically, and I have a lot of friends there and a lot of filmmaker friends, because when I went to film school, all the people that are making movies right now in Germany or shows or everything, I came up with them and I know a lot of them, and they are, and I just don't, I don't just know them. I'm also, they are friends, and, I've known them for like 10, 20 years. And so I feel pretty much at home there. However, I've been in Los Angeles now for 7 years, and I also feel at home here now. And it's like, I couldn't decide between the two worlds because I love them both, and they are, different to one another. But, for example, next week I'm going to go to Germany, and, I'm seeing a friend's new movie, like a rough cut, which I'm looking forward to very much. And so I we help each other out. We give each other notes on scripts, on cuts and all that stuff. And I'm also, I'm doing projects over there when there's something exciting in Germany. I'm excited for it, and I try to do it if I can. And if, last year I shot a movie here in the States. So, wherever the interesting stories are, and they aren't always in the same place,
Absolutely, Christian Ditter. The story are not always located in the same place, and feeling home. especially, for example, in California, can be a multi-round process, but it is made easier with that unidentified and unregistered object, which is the projector, always.
Absolutely. Like home is where the movies are, for sure.
Home is where the movies are. And I actually feel that the festivals and especially the short films scene is way more prominent in Europe and Germany. And this is what led you, for example, to win a national competition for one of your short film, and during an award ceremony, finally meeting real film director that you could look up to and relate to.
Yeah, that's true. So what happened basically is I did, like when I got a little bit like older, like I'm talking 14, 15, like teenager. So my friends stopped running away when I wanted to make movies with them, because actually some of them then liked being on camera, and so I started finishing movies and all that stuff. And so I handed one in to a short film festival when I was still, I don't know, 8th grade, 9th grade, something like that. And so I won that festival, and the award ceremony was like, the whole concept was that a working director hands over the award to the student, to the high school student at the time. And so I went there, and this was the first time in my life that I actually met a real director, because for me, like real directors, even growing up in Germany, I always thought directors live in Hollywood, right? And not in Germany, because I come from a very small town and they had like one theater, and it always showed the Hollywood movies and not the German. It didn't show Wim Wenders and all the great German directors. It only, showed Hollywood movies. And so I thought, okay, movies are made in Hollywood and not here, and obviously I knew there's German film, but it didn't strike me as like a profession. It always struck me as a hobby. And so when I met that filmmaker, his name was Nikolai Caro, he told me, obviously I'm a German director. I went to film school, and this was the first time I ever picked up on there being such things as film schools, and I was like, wow, this is exciting. And when I returned home that night, I told my parents, this is what I want to do. I want to go to film school, and yeah, they were very happy, as you can imagine. And that's what I did,
In addition to that, Christian Ditter, you just mentioned that the kids after the age of 15, and when you were 15, stopped running away because they liked the attention, and they were much more aware of what we can call self-image. And if there is one movie that embodies those two words of self-image, it is How to Be Single. Can you tell us a little bit more about this feature film?
Of course, yeah. How to Be Single was my first American film, actually, and it happened because I did a smaller, like European film before, which was also English language, called Love, Rosie, with Lily Collins and Sam Claflin. And so New Line and Warner Brothers, they saw that film, they saw Love, Rosie, and basically, called me up and said, hey, would you want to direct an American movie? And that turned out to be How to Be Single. And I read it overnight. I met them the next day. I was in LA anyway, because we did some additional sound recording for Love, Rosie. And I loved it. And I thought, this is great fun. And and I literally couldn't believe it, that was just like, it was coming to me. I didn't chase it, no, nothing. I was like literally an incoming phone call, and I couldn't believe how lucky I am. And then, then we made that movie, and it was like a wild ride. We shot in New York, which is insane, and American sets. My first American set, and they are much bigger than European sets. And so when you go I literally remember going to set for the first time and walking down the streets in Manhattan, and there was like trucks standing on the street, like, trailers and stuff like that, makeup, costume, but I was still like, blocks and blocks away from, our shooting location. I was like, wow, okay, there's another movie shooting right here. And so I went to the next block, and there were more trailers in the next block. And I think I walked like 5 blocks, and it was just trailers and like the whole street was locked off. And then I arrived at set, and I was like, holy shit, that's my movie. That's all. We shut down the entire area of the city for my film, and it was just insane because, in Germany you have some trucks too, but usually, it's like you just pick a street corner and film there, right? And so it was insane, but it was a great experience. Great partners, great producers, great actors. So but pretty insane from a European perspective, at least. Yeah.
As an European perspective, if I understood correctly, Christian Ditter, you were talking about the German French fries truck.
the French fries truck. That's the only truck you have on a German set, more or less. No, that's not entirely true. But it's a fraction of what they do here. But a French fries truck is always good to have.
It is essential to always carry 1 or 2 French fries truck in every movie set. And the way you framed this feature film called How to Be Single is exactly, and this is the way I felt it, the way a German kid would dream of Manhattan, because you were very excited to be in New York.
That's very true. What's so interesting is I was in New York for the first time, a few years earlier as a tourist, right? And so I took I always have like a camera, I literally have it here on my desk right here. I have a camera with me most of the time, and so I took pictures as a tourist, not knowing that I will ever shoot a movie there and everything. And so when we started prepping How to Be Single, these pictures were the first thing I looked at, because I wanted to have that view onto the city that you have when you are fresh to it, because that's what the main character is fresh to the city. And Alice, she comes to How to Be Single, she comes to New York newly. She moves there, and I wanted to visualize that experience as much as I could.
And in order, Christian Ditter, to experience New York City at the fullest potential, there is a lot of events that are happening in the night time and the nightlife. And I am especially enjoying one sentence from that feature film, which is, "You're single now, okay? You do not just go home. You shouldn't even have a home. You should just have 500 square feet where you keep some clothes and occasionally bath."
Yeah. That's how it is to be single in New York, I guess. No, it's a great script by Dana Fox, and so it's a great line. I totally agree.
It is a very great line, Christian Ditter, and there is this very powerful combination of, on one side, the comedy with some very funny topics that are brought into the table. But on the other side, there is real emotion. Can you tell us a little bit more about the making and the fact of crafting and mixing those two very powerful components that makes this movie so unique?
You know, yeah, I can totally speak to that. I feel that's just what life is, right? Life is not one note, and I feel that, you know, you can have a lot of fun when you also know how it's like to be sad. And I think it's easier to cope with being sad, you know, when you also have fun now and then. And I feel like the best movies for me, the best comedies also, you know, hit you in the heart, and the other way around, you know, the best dramas, and that's just a matter of personal taste, right? There's no right or wrong in these matters, but I also feel the best dramas are told with levity and also make you like smile now and then, or maybe even laugh. And so I basically in everything I do, I just want to be yes, it's always like some genre thing, you know. So How to Be Single obviously is a comedy, and I you know, like for example Biohackers, which is a Netflix show I did, it's more like a science thrillery thing. But whatever I do, I always come from, okay, what's the emotional honesty here, and what is the experience that the characters are having, and I ideally I want to make the audience not just watch the character have that experience, but feel this experience together with the character. And yeah, and does that answer your question?
Absolutely, Christian Ditter. You want to invite the spectators into the life of the characters that you are portraying. And life is not just one note, but I would also add that for you, life is not just one tripod, because you are rarely using stable plan to shoot the feature film. You like to take the cameras on your shoulders and create a lot of movement, especially in those comedies.
That's true. I try not to be dogmatic about things, but be more like, okay, whatever is best for the scene, you know. And I feel like, for example, in How to Be Single, there's, you know, there's everything. There are some tripod shots, not a lot though, and there's handheld, and there's Steadicam, and there's crane shots, and there's everything. And the question I always ask myself is, okay, like how does this moment and how does the scene feel for the character, and what is the best way to translate that visually? And you know, if it's like a very if the character is you know, excited or agitated, or it's he or she's nervous, you know, then handheld might be a good tool to, you know, use in that moment. Whereas, you know, if somebody is very calm and you know, maybe stuck, or, you know, stuck in life or whatever, you know, handheld might not be the right choice, although it might also be just for contrast. So there's no, like, I don't have any rules about these things. It's more like a gut thing that I go like, okay, I always, you know, before I make the movie, I pretty much, you know, see it in front of my inner eye, and I just, you know, I'm like, okay, how should this feel, and what do I have to do to make it feel it that way?
Furthermore, I would say that the only tripod scene in the entire Ditter filmography is the one in Love, Rosie, but a tripod scene attached to an helicopter, which is not in reality a tripod scene.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe you know, I have to watch back. Yeah, I'm not using a lot of tripods. That's true.
I would love to discuss about this feature film that you also directed called Love, Rosie, a story based on the 2004 novel called Where Rainbows End by Irish author Cecilia Aram. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I can tell you a lot about it. It's Cecilia wrote this novel that I loved when I read it because I always I usually watch more when I grew up, more like adventure and action films and stuff like that. And so for like romance movies, it needed to be close to my life for me to connect. And so I connected as a teenager with very few films. Being like Before Sunrise, for example, or When Harry Met Sally. And when I read Where Rainbows End, I felt this novel had these qualities, and there were a lot of things that I could relate to, and it had a very funny voice, and at the same time it was heartbreaking in places. What happens and how life got in the way of these characters, and I just fell in love with it, and fought for to be allowed to make that movie, and luckily they allowed me to do it. So and then I met Lily, and together with Lily we met Sam, and then we just decided let's do this. I mean, this is like the simplified version, obviously, but this is the gist of it.
This is the logistic of it, and Christian Ditter. There are numerous aspiring filmmakers, and especially in Germany, that are inspired by the work that you are doing. What would be your pieces of advice?
Oh, you know what? I can just pass on the advice that I got as a young film student, because when I was traveling with Verzaubert, Enchanted, I met Verzaubert was shown at the AFI Film Festival, the American Film Institute Film Festival here in Los Angeles, and so I was like thinking this is a great chance, to meet other directors, like professional directors, and I did meet James Mangold at the time. And so I said, James, I'm such a huge fan. I would love to do an internship with you. And he said, okay, why would you want to do that? And I said, because I want to learn from you. I want to learn, filmmaking. And he said, the only way you actually learn filmmaking is by making films. And it sounds like a cliche, but it's so true, because the amount of stuff I learned just with my first short film, Verzaubert, just by cutting out the wrong moments and then crawling over the floor for 2 hours in order to find them again so I can splice them in again. The amount I learned from editing, or, when you put the camera on the wrong side of the axis, and you can't cut it together at all. And these are just the simple things. But, with from project to project, I always keep learning, and I feel if you want to be a filmmaker, you just got to make films, and I think there's no right or wrong way to do it. Obviously film school is an option, but it's not the only option. Some of the best filmmakers never went to film school, they just started making stuff. And what's also, I think, really important is to find like-minded people, to find people that don't run away if you want to make a film with them, but stay, and then pay it back, so when they need you for their films, be there for them. And I think that's the most important thing. And that doesn't change, yeah.
That doesn't change. To keep learning, watch movies, and most importantly, never fix that shelf with the projector that is not straight, because life is not perfect. Thank you very much, Christian Ditter.
Thank you so much. This was really fun.